Top 5 Magic the Gathering Oozes. The Oozes of MTG come with a handful of trademark characteristics. Most common is a way to acquire or distribute +1/+1 counters. Second most common is a way to split or spawn copies of itself. And a few have dealings with the dead. The first ooze on the list has none of those characteristics. Number 5, Acidic Slime. 3 green for a 2/2 with Death Touch. When it enters, it destroys any target artifact, enchantment or land. Spawning in M10, the first core set to feature brand new cards among the usual reprints, Acidic Slime has been a reliable 2-for-1 ever since. It eats dual lands, mana rocks, and even sparkly centaurs, then squelches around on the battlefield, eager to block and trade with a creature of any size. From Goblin Guide to Greater Gargadon, the slime ball always gets his man. Speaking of oozes with a penchant for destruction, number 4, Necroplasm. 1 black for a 1/1 ooze that says, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then at the beginning of your end step, destroy each creature with mana value equal to the number of counters on Necroplasm. Necroplasm is not excluded from this effect, so if left alone, it eventually gets destroyed in its own slime time bomb. But the plasm isn't finished so easily. Necroplasm also has Dredge 2, allowing you to mill a couple cards in place of a draw, return it to your hand, and start the oozing once more. The Golgari weren't the only ones in Ravnica with skin in the ooze game, but instead of Dredge, the Simic went with Kraj. Number 3, Experiment Kraj. 2 green for a 4/6 legendary ooze, mutant from Dissension. Experiment Kraj has all activated abilities of each other creature with a +1/+1 counter on it, which includes your opponent's creatures. Then, in order to enable that static ability, it has the inherent activated ability to tap to put a +1/+1 counter on any target creature. Experiment Kraj is one of my favorite cards from my humble Magic beginnings, and although it has much stronger combo potential nowadays, I was always content pairing it with Simic Ragworm and distributing as many counters as I had blue mana each turn. When media asked Momir Vig if he thought Experiment Kraj would ever grow beyond control, he replied, "Of course it will grow beyond control. It was designed to choose its own evolution." Speaking of choosing, I mean scoozing. Number 2, Scavenging Ooze. 1 and a green for a 2/2 that only has one ability, but it's potent. You can pay a single green to exile a card from any graveyard. Then if that card is a creature, you gain 1 life and put a +1/+1 counter on Scavenging Ooze. Nothing flashy, but it is by far the most played ooze in competitive Magic, for good reason. The Scooze's ability to be such efficient graveyard hate and a growing threat within a single card makes it very appealing and earns it a high spot on this list. Plus, the incidental life gain doesn't hurt either. Exiling creatures from graveyards is cool, but with Scavenging Ooze, it always feels a bit like a job. For the number 1 ooze on this list, though, it's a way of life. Number 1, the Mimeoplasm. I covered Necroplasm, I've been covered in Bioplasm, and I think we all went to school with a Manaplasm, but this is the Mimeoplasm. 2 green for a 0/0 legendary ooze. There's more. As the Mimeoplasm enters the battlefield, you get to exile 2 creatures from among any graveyards. Still not satisfied? Well, if you do exile 2 creatures, it enters as a copy of one and gets additional +1/+1 counters based on the power of the other. Big combo potential here. So use your imagination and let me know in the comments what your dream plasm pairing looks like. My personal favorite is the Walking Ballista of Extinction. Honorable mention goes to Slogurk, the Overslime. 1 green for a 3/3 legendary ooze with trample. Whenever a land goes in the bin, from anywhere, it gets a +1/+1 counter. Then you can remove 3 counters from it to return it to your hand. When it leaves the battlefield for any reason, whether you bounce it or not, you return 3 lands from your yard to your hand. Incredible name and interesting set of abilities, but too new to squelch any of the old guard out quite yet. But like any good ooze, given time, I'm sure it will grow on me. Follow for more Top 5s.